They're leaning in.
Or what?
They're leaning into woke, hardcore.
They're just how once trusted critics that shilled for the Disney company all the time, even they are beginning to turn their back against them.
Far left-wing activists in Hollywood are turning on her, and Disney has canceled all of Rachel Zegler's appearance.
Have you ever witnessed a beloved Disney classic turn into a headline-grabbing fiasco? Buckle up, because that's exactly what happened when AMC pulled the plug on the live-action Snow White. This wasn't some minor indie film losing a few screens. It was a full-blown Disney remake, the kind studios usually bank on to dominate the box office for weeks. Yet here we are sifting through social media eruptions, shocking talk show rants, and a cascade of empty seats. Over the next few minutes, you'll discover how a star's unpredictable commentary and a studio's massive gamble collided in one of the most unexpected meltdowns in recent Hollywood memory. From AMC's historic move to yank the film early, to the behind-the-scenes drama fueling Rachel Zegler's controversial statements, this story is a roller coaster of corporate miscalculations and fan outrage. Perhaps the biggest question is how a fairy tale princess who once symbolized Disney's golden age became embroiled in a controversy that critics say killed the magic. Let's uncover each piece of this puzzle, starting with the theater chain that dared to defy the House of Mouse.
There was an in-depth piece, like a behind-the-scenes piece, talking about how they've been in a full meltdown about this girl for a couple of years now.
Kids who like Disney movies, even they don't seem to be turning up in droves for the movie because the movie is really, really bad.
AMC's relationship with Disney is usually a match made in box office heaven. Families swarm theaters, kids don princess gowns, and moviegoers of all ages bask in the studio's nostalgic glow. But this time, the glow fizzled. Ticket sales for Snow White were dismal, so dismal in fact that AMC saw no choice but to cut its losses and yank the film entirely. Picture managers scrambling to fill near-empty auditoriums, promotions falling flat, and even weekend matinees struggling to draw a crowd. It's almost unheard of for a top theater chain to abandon a major Disney release before it's had a fair run. Yet that's precisely what happened. Overnight, the industry realized that not even Disney is invincible when a film's buzz goes sour. The meltdown swirling around Snow White burned so hot that AMC simply let go of the rope. If you're already fascinated by how a titan like Disney lost control, do me a quick favor, tap that like button, hit subscribe, and drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your take. Was AMC justified in ditching Snow White so soon, or did they pull the trigger too fast?
With Snow White, let's go through this, right? There's no prince. Woman doesn't need a prince.
Oh, Lord.
Really? Okay, good luck back then.
Long before AMC made its bombshell decision, the seeds of destruction were being planted during the film's promotion phase. Rachel Zegler, fresh off critical acclaim and other projects, was set to be Disney's new breakout princess. Early interviews framed her as the face of an updated Snow White, a version that aimed to leave certain outdated aspects in the dust. And that's precisely where the trouble started. Zegler talked candidly about reworking the romance and diminishing the prince's role, describing the 1937 plotline as archaic. She questioned why a modern audience would care about a princess who waits around for her happily ever after. While Zegler's intentions might have been progressive, longtime Disney fans heard it as a condemnation of the fairy tale they grew up adoring. Online debates erupted, with purists feeling insulted and progressive supporters applauding the change. In a blink, the conversation had shifted from excitement about the new film to arguments over whether Disney had betrayed its own legacy. This tension would eventually explode on live television, but even these initial comments did plenty of damage. Zegler inadvertently highlighted just how big a gamble Disney was taking by revamping a story so deeply etched into pop culture. Suddenly, the spotlight was on her. No longer as a charming new princess, but as a potential disruptor who might be about to rewrite too much of what people cherished about Snow White. Daytime talk shows are typically the fluffiest part of a promotional tour, where tough questions rarely intrude. That's why producers often breathe easy when a star is scheduled to sit down with friendly hosts, especially for a studio giant like Disney. But Rachel Zegler's appearance on The View went from breezy chat to five-alarm fire in mere minutes. The plan was simple. Highlight the film's impressive production values, discuss the empowering angle of a modern princess, and maybe toss in a warm anecdote about working alongside Gal Gadot. Instead, Zegler doubled down on her criticisms of what she saw as archaic tropes in the original Snow White. She rattled off remarks about how the 1937 film promoted outdated ideas, dismissing the classic romance that many fans find endearing. Off-camera, you could practically sense the Disney PR team frantically waving their arms like air traffic controllers trying to divert a collision. When producers cut to an early commercial break, it was already too late. Social media lit up with clips of Zegler's comments. Hosts looked uncomfortable, and an audience accustomed to the sweet side of Disney films found itself face-to-face with the star actively challenging the brand's historical essence. Critiques of the film might have simmered quietly if Zegler had stuck to the usual studio messaging, but her open defiance of the old fairy tale formula launched a meltdown that overshadowed every subsequent conversation about Snow White. So, what exactly changed in this live-action adaptation? Fans often embrace a few modern tweaks here and there, provided the new version pays homage to the classic's heart. This film, however, seemed bent on discarding large chunks of the original's narrative. The once iconic dwarfs were replaced by ambiguous creatures. The romantic angle that served as a sweet moral center in the animated version was mostly sidelined. Even the comedic beats, the sense of wonder, and the songs that kids have memorized for generations felt stripped down. Critics who initially championed an empowered princess soon found themselves questioning why so many beloved elements were tossed aside. Some labeled it a superficial modernization, progress for progress's sake, rather than a nuanced reimagining. The story that emerged was neither reminiscent of Walt Disney's nostalgic magic, nor an innovative new direction that stood on its own merits. It fell into a murky middle ground, alienating the old guard while failing to entice a new audience looking for something bold. Disney's representatives tried to pitch these changes as necessary updates, framing the original as a product of its time. Yet the more they leaned on this narrative, the more die-hard fans felt that the classic had been disrespected. Instead of winning over modern viewers and longtime admirers, the adaptation's radical reinventions satisfied almost no one. A controversy can stay manageable if it plays out behind closed doors or in limited forums. But we live in the age of viral clips, trending hashtags, and lightning-fast hot takes. The meltdown on The View became a snippet that circulated on every platform imaginable, from TikTok and Twitter to Reddit and YouTube reaction channels. With each repost, the narrative hardened. Rachel Zegler doesn't value the original Snow White, and Disney is blindly letting it happen. Hashtags like #NotMySnowWhite quickly gained traction. Some fans posted earnest messages mourning the death of the fairy tale they knew. Others reveled in meme culture, mocking both the film and Zegler's stance. Influencers and bloggers jumped on the bandwagon, analyzing every stray comment, every suspicious pause during interviews, and every rumor from alleged insiders. By the time the film hit theaters, the question wasn't whether Snow White would succeed, but how big the flop would be. Ironically, all the free publicity still didn't translate into ticket sales. Negative buzz eclipsed any chance for curious onlookers to give the film a fair shake. People who hadn't planned on watching were suddenly convinced there was no point. After all, social media had declared it an unwatchable train wreck. Disney's success has always hinged on seamless coordination between corporate interests, marketing teams, and talent. When that system works, you get well-curated press tours, carefully controlled social media strategies, and hype that translates directly into box office gold. But Snow White proved how fragile the system can be when a star diverges from the pre-approved narrative. Some insiders claim Disney was caught off guard by how adamantly Rachel Zegler championed the adaptation's changes. Others believe the studio wanted to ride the wave of controversy for free publicity, until it backfired. The meltdown exposed a fundamental rift. Zegler saw herself as a fresh, modern voice calling for an empowered princess, while Disney was far more concerned with maintaining the brand's squeaky clean image and appealing to nostalgic fans. The result was a breakdown in communication so severe that it played out on national television. In many ways, the meltdown is a case study in what happens when studios can't, or won't, rein in their stars. Authenticity can be a powerful selling point, especially with younger audiences who crave realness. But if that authenticity collides with cherished traditions and beloved IPs, the fallout can be catastrophic. Lost in all the noise was the presence of Gal Gadot, a bona fide A-lister who had signed on to play the film's iconic villain. Initially, her involvement was hyped as a massive draw, guaranteed to pique the interest of anyone who might be on the fence about a Snow White remake. Yet the meltdown drama hijacked every headline, leaving Gadot's star power in the shadows. Rumors swirled of tension between Gadot and Zegler, though nothing concrete ever surfaced. Fans speculated that Gadot, who usually stays on brand, wanted little to do with the controversy swirling around her co-star. Whatever the truth, one thing was clear. Any marketing push featuring Gadot was drowned out by the unstoppable negativity. By the time the film was pulled from AMC, her role had become a footnote. And if you're still here, intrigued by how even a superstar like Gadot couldn't keep this film afloat, make sure to comment below with your thoughts on whether a single meltdown can overpower a big-name cast. Also, don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into Hollywood's most shocking stories. When something shakes pop culture to its core, you can bet Joe Rogan will have an opinion. On his massive podcast platform, he dissected the Snow White meltdown as a cautionary tale for every major franchise. Rogan pointed out that if Disney, arguably the most powerful brand in family entertainment, can't endure a public relations nightmare, then no studio is untouchable. He also zeroed in on a key issue: the modern balancing act between artistic freedom and the corporate need for a unified message. Zegler embodied that conflict. She spoke her mind openly, rejecting the sanitized bullet points that PR teams typically insist upon. In Rogan's eyes, that raw honesty could have been refreshing, but it was the wrong property to experiment on. The clash of a New World star with an Old World fairy tale was just too jarring for a wide audience. Critics of Rogan's view argue that Zegler shouldn't be scapegoated for the film's deeper structural flaws. Nonetheless, his commentary amplified the sense that Snow White didn't fail because it was undermarketed or overshadowed by bigger titles. It failed because the meltdown overshadowed every other aspect of the film. Hollywood is built on symbiotic relationships. Studios provide blockbuster content, and theater chains like AMC reap the ticket sales. Historically, Disney stands at the top of that pyramid, wielding near unquestioned power in distribution deals. But Snow White changed the equation. AMC's move to yank the film early signaled that exhibitors won't endlessly cater to a studio's big name if it means bleeding money. Industry analysts suggest this could mark a turning point in negotiations. The next time Disney pitches a remake or live-action adaptation, theater chains might demand better financial terms or exit clauses if a film bombs dramatically. Meanwhile, smaller studios might see AMC's decision as a rare chance to claim more screen time if Disney's film performance falters. The meltdown essentially put everyone on notice. Brand loyalty alone doesn't guarantee box office success. As for Disney, the company will need to weigh the risks of unveiling controversial reinventions of timeless tales. If they push the envelope too far, or if the star attach goes off script, exhibitors now have a blueprint for cutting their losses. It's a new reality in which no IP, no matter how iconic, is too big to fail. For a corporation famously protective of its image, watching a marquee title crash and burn is the stuff of nightmares. One immediate concern is financial recoupment. With AMC out of the picture, other theaters might follow suit, severely limiting the film's theatrical window. Disney could fast-track a streaming release on Disney+, but that tactic usually screams box office failure, hurting the brand and potentially undermining future theatrical endeavors. Then there's the longer-term brand damage. Disney is built on trust, a belief that its content is safe, nostalgic, and often wondrous. The meltdown chipped away at that foundation. For many fans, the fiasco confirmed suspicions that Disney might be more interested in pushing a surface-level message of modernity than respecting the core essence of its classics. It also forces a re-evaluation of Disney's PR strategies. The meltdown laid bare how vulnerable even the mightiest studios are when their leading talent goes rogue. Will Disney slap tighter non-disclosure agreements on future actors? Or will it attempt to harness that star authenticity more effectively without letting it derail the film's core messaging? Whichever approach they choose, the ripple effect from this fiasco will shape the company's approach to remakes for a long time. Looking at the ashes of the Snow White remake, it's astonishing how swiftly Disney's golden formula unraveled. A few controversial interviews, a scorching daytime TV meltdown, an overwhelming social media outcry, and one of Hollywood's most anticipated remakes spiraled into a cautionary tale. The biggest theater chain in the country pulling the movie was just the final nail in the coffin, confirming to everyone that Disney had misjudged its audience on a grand scale. Yet the repercussions of this meltdown extend far beyond a single film. It highlights the precarious balancing act between innovation and tradition, between star-driven authenticity and corporate messaging. It suggests that nostalgia is a double-edged sword. Fans love reboots only if they're handled with respect. Cross that line, and even a juggernaut like Disney can see its release unceremoniously booted from theaters. So what do you think? Are we witnessing the end of an era for sugar-coated Disney remakes? Or is this just a bump in the road for the House of Mouse? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that like button and subscribe to stay updated on Hollywood's most shocking tales. One thing's for sure, the meltdown will be remembered as a pivotal moment, proof that even fairy tale empires can crumble when they stray too far from the magic that made them immortal.